Today, we'll be looking at some shocking statistics about retirement savings in America that most financial advisors don't talk about. Over our years working with retirees, we've discovered that many people are making critical retirement decisions based on incomplete information or misleading averages that don't reflect their actual situation. So that's why we're making this video today to share the retirement statistics that matter most and show how to use this information to create more confidence in your retirement plan, regardless of where you stand today. So let's get right into it. All right, John. Today we're going to talk about a little bit of the what people call the retirement confidence paradox. Can you elaborate a little bit more about what that actually means?
Yeah, sure. So the retirement confidence paradox is really the disconnect between what pre-retirees expect retirement to look like versus what retirees' actual experience is.
Okay.
And what happens and what that causes is it manifests itself in a sense where a pre-retiree can become very nervous about retirement. Have I saved enough? It may, force someone to work longer than maybe they actually had to.
This anxiety will often cause people to delay retirement unnecessarily. And I think that a large portion of that, and we're going to go over this in a moment, is because there's a disconnect in what people assume is going to happen in retirement and what real retirees are actually experiencing today.
Yeah. So when you think about it, there's a study done that shows that 31% of pre-retirees today feel like they have enough money to retire or that they're on the right track. Right?
Only 31%, you said?
Only
Wow.
31%.
Okay.
Whereas 77% of retirees feel like they're comfortable and that they have enough to live their lifestyle.
So hang on, just to make sure we got that. 31% of people who aren't retired yet feel like that they only 31% only feel like that they are on track for retirement.
Correct.
Whereas the people who are currently retired today, 77% of those retirees feel comfortable in their retirement situation.
That's correct. And some of those perceptions, and where is that disconnect? Go ahead. I got you.
No, that's okay because you were just I think we're gonna get into it right now is that seems like a huge disconnect where again people that aren't going into retirement have this massive fear going again less than a third of the people getting ready to retire feel comfortable, but yet all the people that are in retirement, three-quarters of them more so, are like, yeah, I'm doing okay. So why is there such anxiety leading up to it?
I think pre-retirees are unaware or unsure or misled or misguided on where their income or is going to come from in their retirement years. So one of the issues that we're seeing is that pre-retirees feel that 48% of their income that they need is going to come from their Keogh plans, their IRAs, their
Okay.
401k, whereas retirees are saying 27% of their income is coming from that box of money or that sleeve of money, so to
Okay.
say. Um, Another thing that we have seen is that pre-retirees are expecting 34% of their income to be provided by Social Security, whereas almost 60% of retirees say that's where their income is coming from.
Oh wow.
So pre-retirees also sometimes make a misguided decision that they think maybe 20% of my retirement income is going to come from part-time work,
Okay.
whereas only 3% of retirees are saying that's where their income is coming from. So pre-retirees are thinking it might fall in that line of, hey, I don't think I have enough, but if I retire, I'm going to have to keep working part-time. And in reality, that's not really the case.
So it seems like there's a real big disconnect here between people nearing retirement and in retirement, where, again, like you just discussed, like people think that they're going to lean heavily on their pre-retirement investments and all these other sources of income when people who are actually in retirement and enjoying retirement today are saying it's actually not that intense of a thing. I shouldn't say intense, but we're seeing that their sources of income aren't as heavily dependent on these other investments here. But with knowing that 71% of these people are worried about their retirement situation as they head into retirement, this kind of leads into more anxiety of postponing retirement again. Where does all this anxiety come from?
Well, it comes from three major misunderstandings of what we would call retirement reality.
Retirement reality. So let's get into that. But before we do, if you're concerned about how you've been planning for retirement, click the first link in the description to complete a complimentary questionnaire. And afterward, we'll send over a video showing you how to properly prepare for retirement based on your situation. All right, let's get back into this situation here. So you just mentioned that there's these major misunderstandings about retirement reality today, and they're kind of the retirement reality gaps, right? And the first one that you've brought up to us before in the past is income sources, right? Can you elaborate a little bit more on this reality income gap or reality gap, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing we look at is that pre-retirees are looking at Social Security as maybe 30% of their retirement income, and where reality shows that retirees are telling us it's almost 60% of their retirement income. So obviously going into planning, they're underestimating what their Social Security estimates are
Okay.
or what their potential benefits are. So they may not have done a really good job of getting an understanding of what the benefits are and how they grow each year when they delay turn on that benefit.
Okay.
Another area that we're seeing with people is that sometimes when they're doing their retirement planning, they are also accounting for maybe some part-time work, maybe a consultant job, for some form of what I would call a passion project. They're going to
Oh,
work,
okay.
they're going to make some money, but they're not going to go cold turkey and stop working. We're finding that retirees are only accounting for 3% of that to be their income.
Okay. A very small portion. Wow.
So if you're doing retirement planning and we're forecasting some type of job after retirement, passion project, consultant, part-time work, and we're relying on that income for so many years in your retirement. Someone at 65 may say, I want to retire at 65, but from 66 to 70, I'm going to work part-time and I'm going to make 20, $30,000 a year. If that part-time job doesn't happen and we're really relying on that income to be financially independent, and if that job doesn't happen or we're not earning that income, that could have a negative consequence on your probability of success because that's income that we're not getting.
Right.
There's gonna be a shortfall, and that shortfall is gonna have to come from your investments.
Gotcha.
And if they hadn't been accounted for, it could cause an issue.
So again, not understanding what your income sources are going to be and how much of that income is going to be are two major factors within this one retirement reality gap that are affecting people and making them more anxious heading into retirement. You're just not doing I don't want to say due diligence, but like they're just you talked before, like the test drive, the that ability to just kind of stop and look at the numbers. Like I feel like that's not happening with these people that are anxious heading into retirement.
Yeah, I think some individuals are going into retirement or exploring retirement with over or underinflated numbers
Right.
and not having a realistic view of what their benefits are, whether it's, social security benefits,
Hmm.
pension benefits, or what their true spending needs are throughout their retirement. Your retirement years can last anywhere from 20 to 30 years.
You're talking about income sources here and the people's not inability, but lack of taking the time to actually figure out what their income sources are actually going to be and mathematically figuring that out, which I think leads into very well naturally into the second retirement reality gap that you have, which is that spending actually varies and probably decreases as you're heading into retirement. I don't think that's something that a lot of people consider as they think about their retirement situation.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who are entering retirement are looking at their current spending. They say, hey, I spend $60,000 a year
Hmm.
and I'm going to not change my lifestyle in any way. And I'm going to spend $60,000 a year plus inflation over maybe my life expectancy of age 95.
Right.
And I want to run the numbers to see if I'm financially independent. And what we've seen, there's studies out there that do show spending decreases by almost 2.5% for people over age 65.
Okay.
That doesn't mean you're going to change your spending over at 2.5% over
Right.
at age 65 or above, but it's showing that people are going into retirement with a laser-like focus of this is what I'm going to spend, right? And what we've seen, and then there's a shift or a trend that people at age 65, your priorities kind of change, right? So you may not enjoy traveling as much as you once did when you were 50.
Hmm.
Some we see clients that come in and say, "Hey, I got bad knees, bad hips, taking that cruise. My days of taking cruises are over, going to Italy and so forth. It's just a little bit harder." Um, their priorities change in the sense that they become a little bit more like, "Hey, I'm going to focus on my health. I want to make sure that I am as healthy as I can be." They stay home more. They're doing house projects, and also at age 65 and 70 and above, you're buying less durable goods. You're not buying the new car as often.
Hmm.
You're not driving the fancy car with the higher car payment. So there are things that will help decrease your spending. We want to make sure that if we do what we project we're going to spend, we're going to spend,
Right.
but we can't have such a high expectation and not be able to shift downward if spending is less than what we were projecting.
I think that leads to that anxiety that we were talking about before, like the idea that you need to consistently grow and improve your portfolio because your budget's going to increase every year. When again, there's we've talked about before the go go, slow go, no go years, where like yeah, maybe those first few years you are going to spend a little bit more because you are a little bit more active, younger in your retirement. But like you just said, you're gonna eventually slow down, and eventually that's gonna uh, reduce, some of the spending that you need. And like you said, in if you're working with the financial advisor, you can figure out ways to make sure that whatever your budget is allocated in the right way, or making sure that your assets are allocated the right way, so that way it works for your particular situation.
Yeah, just because you're spending something today doesn't mean you're going to be spending that forever. We want to make sure we have a realistic guideline of, what we think our spending is going to be forward and then make some decisions from there.
From there,
That's the baseline.
we talked about kind of slowing down in your later years, which kind of leads into retirement reality gap number three, which is legacy motives, a mistake that a lot of people, I shouldn't say a mistake, but a concern that a lot of people have heading into retirement that can cause a lot of anxiety for people who haven't even retired yet.
Yeah, think of a person who says, like with every one of our clients, we sit down and we ask them, how important is it for you to leave a legacy or an inheritance behind for your children? And the answer varies, right? We say 0 if you don't care, 10 if it's the most important thing. At 10, that means you're going to go without in order to ensure that your children or your estate is going to get something.
Right.
Okay. I think most people don't want to go without. I think most people don't want to be a burden.
Hmm.
And that means I don't want to have to need at home care or nursing home care, and I can't afford it. Now my kids are going to have to, provide this care for me.
Yep. Yep.
So there's a fine line of leaving an inheritance and being a burden. Right? So if you want to leave an inheritance and you have the set number in your head, that means that you may feel that you have to save even more because part of that money might not be yours really because you've already allocated it to the children.
Yeah.
So that may force a person to work much longer and try to save even more so, right? On top of that, if you're in your retirement, you may be trying to, really button down the hatches and slow the spending down, and that causes people to not really have the retirement that they had envisioned.
Yep.
Okay, so we want to make sure that we have a good understanding of how important is legacy planning for you, and appropriately address that situation.
Like as we're having this conversation, I'm like, I'm still 30 years from retirement. I'm already thinking about like how do I make sure I get most of my money to my kids. But in this conversation, like I gotta also make sure that I can survive and not be a burden to my kids in that process, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
your kids, the age that your kids are today is not going to be the age where they are forever. So my
Right.
oldest is 27 years old. Now, leaving him something at 27 will be different. Our mindset will be different when he's 45 and 50.
All right, so we've discussed three of these retirement reality gaps, and now I want to kind of focus on what are the true drivers of like planning a retirement or a successful retirement or a satisfying retirement.
Adam, the first thing we want to do is look at income predictability, uh, the guaranteed type of income. If you're fortunate enough to have a pension,
Okay.
Social Security, or did you have an annuity that is providing a stream of income for you? People who have these types of guaranteed income have less anxiety and they know where a majority of their income is coming from. So the goal is to make sure that we understand where what our income needs are and where those streams of income is going to come from. The other area we're looking at is like your lifestyle, right?
Hmm.
Envisioning the retirement that you want and then making sure that we have the appropriate plan in place. And what does that mean? So if you're envisioning, hey, I want to be down in North Carolina or Florida for 6 months out of the year. We have to budget for it and that we're providing that. Some people don't have an elaborate retirement picture. They may just want to be local with the grandkids and always feel comfortable that I'm not going to run out of money. but I don't need the country club membership. I don't need a boat on the water, but I want to be able to do the things I want to do and feel assured that I have enough money to live the lifestyle that I want, not what my next door neighbor is doing or my friend who I worked with for 30 years, because everyone's situation is uniquely different.
Yeah. I'm glad you just said that point right there. Like everyone's situation is their own situation.
Mhm.
If you're looking at, Tom, Dick, and Harry about what their retirement lifestyle is, and that's not what you want, that shouldn't be what you feel like you have to achieve or financially have to be at in order to do those things. Because, like you said, if you just want to kind of not hang out at home, but like if your vision is different than theirs, you just got to make sure that your situation can sustain what your vision is.
Yeah, imagine two people working at the same company for 30 years together,
Hmm.
and let's say they made the same amount of money. They seem to be kind of equal on paper, same age, same amount of income, and one person was saving more than the other. One person might have no kids, someone might have four kids.
Yep.
Someone may have a health issue, someone may not. So you can't look at the person that you worked with or who was in the accounting department with you, even though you worked at the same company, your circumstances are drastically different. So we can't compare ourselves to the person that you're close with.
I think that leads into the third section that you have here, which is like a health satisfaction connection in retirement.
Yeah, I mean the number one asset you hear all the time is your health, right? Health
Hmm.
is something that you really can't buy. As we get older, we're seeing our clients who are retired, who are the healthiest and they're active and they really put a lot of time and effort into making sure that they maintain a healthy lifestyle. The
Hmm.
healthy lifestyle also helps with the mental health issue. They feel comfortable, they feel great. And one thing that everyone wants is to live as long as they possibly can and, and have a great quality of life. And we want to make sure that your health is the number one priority moving forward.
So we've discussed again kind of what the problem is, this retirement paradox, confidence paradox that people have, what kind of some of the factors that you should be paying attention to, which is again your, reliable income sources, planning for retirement that you want, and making sure that again you have that health uh, level that can give you a satisfactory retirement in the years to come. What are some actionable steps that someone can take to implement this?
So some of the actionable steps that you can take is make sure that you understand what your portfolio income number is, your
Hmm.
PIN. And that means is I have a good understanding of what I need from my portfolio to live the lifestyle that I want.
Hmm.
Okay. We want to make sure that we focus on the 77% of retirees who are happy. And we want to make sure that we're looking at our situation and not comparing ourselves to others around us who have a different vision of what retirement may look like. We want to make sure that we develop, realistic spending projections in your future.
Mhm. Okay, so once I've gone through and I've calculated what my portfolio income needs is, what's the next action item I do?
So the next action item is making sure that we understand where our streams of income is coming from. When is the appropriate time to turn on Social Security? Is it at 62 or is it 66? Is it age 70? We want to make sure that we maximize Social Security to the best benefit for you for long term. Okay.
Hmm.
Second thing is we want to make sure is that we develop streams of income. If you have a pension, do I take option A, option B, option C? You have to understand what each of those options are,
Okay.
what are the pros and what are the cons. Maybe a third item is now for us to maybe create a pension fund for you from a portion of your money that is a reliable, steady stream of lifetime income. We've noticed that people who understand where their income is coming from
Hmm.
in reliable and guaranteed income has people feeling much more positive about their future than people who have saved a lot of money and are relying strictly on the stock market to create the income that they need
Okay.
because they go if the market's down they feel
They
like they're not
feel
going to get the income. If the market is up they feel great, but they have to live within those highs and lows of that market volatility.
like, which again causes anxiety in and of itself. Like, like- so we have again creating your portfolio or finding out what your portfolio income needs is. From there, you create that framework that you were just talking about, like understanding again, kind of where you need to spend what the first step should be. Again, asset allocation, Social Security optimization, either maybe you have to work a little bit longer to get to that pin portfolio income level that you need, whatever it is that you got to figure out. What would be another action item that we need to consider as we head into this retirement satisfaction uh, uh, appropriateness?
Yeah, we want to make sure that we have a clear spending approach and how much we actually really truly need in retirement and not these fictitious, naive, over or underinflated numbers.
Okay.
We want to make sure that you have an understanding of how inflation works in the future, how taxes play a role with withdrawals from your portfolio. Is it ordinary income tax? Is it capital gains tax? Is it tax free? There are different taxes that we want to make sure that we have a full understanding of withdrawals to live our lifestyle have a pro and a con to.
Yep.
We want to make sure that you fully understand that. We also want to have a realistic view that our spending at some point in time does decrease over time. Studies showed us that at 65 and above, your monthly spending reduces roughly around 2.5% annually.
Yep.
We also know at age 70, 75 is called the advanced age spending,
Oh, yeah, we
that
talked about
people
that. Yeah.
start to spend even less at that age because they're doing less. They're not buying during, they're not going out as often.
Yep.
So spending does decrease. We don't want to run these overinflated needs. We want to have a realistic view of your situation.
It sounds like we've got a good framework here. You've got, again, portfolio income needs number, spending framework. You mentioned taxes, which I didn't even think about, which is great because this is what's great about working with the financial advisor is they help you kind of see the things that you don't even consider as you're going through your retirement planning situation. And you're also a good financial advisor becomes almost like a sounding board because we were talking about how you could become an emotional investor in some of these things, or if the stock market goes up or down 20%, it could make you have these knee-jerk reactions, which could have compounding effects in the future. Working with a professional helps reduce that anxiety that we talked about before, where only 31% of people not retired yet are feeling comfortable. That if you're working with someone, a professional, to kind of help avoid some of these mistakes, I think that's really going to benefit you in the long run as as person nearing retirement, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, working with a financial advisor allows an individual to really get a good, solid framework of their situation. Okay. And by having a retirement plan in place allows people to be disciplined. Okay. We're going to follow the retirement plan,
Mm-hmm.
but we have guardrails in place. So when you work with a financial advisor, you're going to most likely have quarterly or semi-annual reviews. By having those reviews, it allows the client and it allows the financial advisor to really take an assessment of what's happening. Things just don't stay on the course forever. Situations change. So by having that quarterly or semi-annual review, it allows us to take your temperature. Hey, what's going on in your life? How's everyone's health? Are we spending what we were projecting we're spending? This is why your portfolio is behaving in certain market
Mm-hmm.
conditions. These are maybe some of the changes we want to take within your portfolio to make sure that we stay on track. But having the financial plan in place allows you to remain disciplined and not make knee-jerk reactions. But it is also a chance for you and your advisor to have open lines of communication.
Yeah.
Right? If you're staying up at night, you don't have that sleep factor, you're concerned. Well, you can pick up the phone, call your advisor, or you have a review. You can express your concerns and maybe make adjustments to your portfolio or your plan as needed.
I think it's important to note too that you want to make sure that you're working with somebody that you can have that confidence in that you can be very transparent with, right? These are my concerns. I am scared of this. And that's okay because those are emotions. And that's your job as the financial advisor to help these retirees or pre-retirees ad address these as they come to head, right?
Yeah, I believe in today's economy, in today's world that we're seeing today, good financial advice is critical. I think it's important for someone to work with a financial advisor who listens to them, understands what their concerns are, understands what their unique circumstances
Yep.
and what they're trying to accomplish. And you want to make sure that all aspects of your financial life are aligned. You're working with someone that you feel that you can be open with
Mm-hmm.
and that they hear you and that they're listening to you. And that is, this financial plan is a two-way street with the advisor and the client.
Perfect. So we discussed what's causing anxiety in pre-retirees in today's world, ways that you can kind of help overcome that anxiety, and really the benefits of having and establishing a plan that you can work with somebody to make sure that you both kind of hold each other accountable as you go through the retirement process.
Correct.
Awesome. John, I love it. Thank you so much for the time. I always appreciate hanging out and going over this kind of stuff.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Now that you understand why the shocking gaps between retirement expectations and realities actually create opportunities for more confident retirement planning, the key isn't necessarily just saving more, as we discussed. It's understanding what actually determines retirement comfort and focusing your efforts there. So if you're concerned about your retirement planning strategy, click on the first link in the description to fill out a questionnaire we created. Afterward, we'll send over a personalized video highlighting any areas of opportunity with actionable steps to help secure a more stable retirement. Until next time, take care.